everyone, and welcome to Connect to Success. I'm your host, Ashley Owens, your personal networking concierge. And on the show, we talk to the power networkers of the greater Philadelphia, South Jersey area, and all over the world because Zoom is a thing. And networking is just extraordinary, and it can be done any place and any time. So I have the pleasure and the privilege of interviewing my neighbor, Sarah DeGeorge.
Hi.
Dude, it's been like a long time since we've hung out.
I know, I was thinking about that. I know that we were in West Philly at the coffee shop.
Yes,
And
we hung out at the coffee shop.
And that was like, I think like.
Feels like a lifetime ago.
It really does. I was thinking about that and I was just like, wow, like things were just normal back then. And we were like, oh, you want to get a cup of coffee?
Yeah.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
Same place that we always go to? Yes.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Now it's like, well, that place is, like you don't know what's happening anymore. Right. So.
Oh gosh. Well, when we met, we also met at the Soloist Collective, which was a phenomenal community for freelancers and entrepreneurs. And I really got a chance. That was actually one of the first networking events I went to before I started. It was 3 years ago, 4 years ago.
Yeah, I think it might be 4 at this point. I was trying to like pinpoint that too on my ride over here, just because I was like, what time frame do we have anymore? Because I don't know.
Nope,
we lost an entire year.
And it was great because I got a chance to, 1, meet my neighbors, and 2, get a chance to look at the community and what was thriving in it. Because I was in Center City a lot for work. Mm-hmm. And so when I came back to West Philly to start my own thing, it was like I needed to build a community, and it was a really nice place to start doing that. So tell people who you are, what you do, and what makes you awesome.
So yeah, I'm Sarah DeGeorge. I'm a digital marketing specialist. I primarily work with small to mid-sized businesses. We craft anything from a digital strategy, be it the first strategy a business ever has to a strategy, overhaul of something that existed. And we try to formulate the authentic voice of the business, specifically with working with small to mid-sized businesses. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of times solopreneurs, and there's a lot of individual, really cool points about this business that sometimes gets overlooked in the digital strategy. So it's my job to put it all together mm-hmm. and formulate an authentic marketing plan that is also sustainable for the business. Mm-hmm. When there's only a few people, they need something that, when I'm working on it, I also want them at the end to feel as though they know what's happening and they feel comfortable if they were ever in need to do it as well. So it's kind of formulating a lot of different things into one, brand strategy that takes into account all of their digital marketing.
And it's so interesting too, because a lot of companies will be like, we'll just do it for you. But what you're doing is you're cultivating a process that you can also hand off to them.
Yes.
Which is really interesting and nice. So what kind of industries do you work with? Or I'm sure you can work with everybody, but who do you like working with?
This is a weird, not a weird question, a good question, but it's weird because I feel like I can dive into mostly any industry as long as I take the time to learn about what it is, that they're trying to sell, product, service, the niche that they're in, and kind of understand. I like working with a lot of nonprofit type mm-hmm. work. I think that's really good. It talks a lot about, or it ties into who I am as a person. I enjoy giving back, and I think that it's the easiest kind of conversation because I'm always thinking in that way, so I can take how I personally want to give back to the community and turn it into, a plan as to, okay, well, how can we let people know who you are and mm-hmm. what you're doing and find a good marketing strategy, but that doesn't seem like marketing, especially with nonprofits. It needs to be honest. It mm-hmm. needs to be altruistic, you know what I mean? Yeah. So that's important, but that's, I think, the most seamless type of collaboration I have is with nonprofits. Wow. But I enjoy other things I've done. Pest control, HVAC, travel agencies. I work with local authors. Wow. So those are a whole bunch of different industries that I can name off the top of my head. There's way more.
So the freelancer community is so tight-knit in a good way because everybody is trying to do the right thing for different people at the same time. So how has that community been for you? How have you been able to, especially during COVID times, how have you been able to connect with that kind of community?
Yeah, so I think the one good thing about freelancing is that it is, a lot of it is online based. Mm-hmm. The communities, there are so many different groups that I'm in that are both localized to Philly, for example, but also, you know, there are like more high-level freelancing groups where there's like support, and it definitely was like a crutch I think we all needed to lean on during COVID. That's really kind of how we connect with each other, and I think a lot of people, we were hearing the same things over and over again in COVID about, you know, when you're freelancing, there is that networking end of things, but then there is that very solo end of things, and it was really, I think that was the hardest part for freelancers. So having these communities was really uplifting. The communities helped us, you know, if somebody in the in one of the, say, Facebook communities needed help and one of us could help, you know, somebody's like, oh, I need somebody to help with search engine optimization, for example. And we knew somebody that could do it. It was a lot of connection that was happening, even if it was virtual. So I thought that that was, you know, very nice and something I think we all needed, especially in freelancing, because we are doing multiple things for multiple people, and it's just good to have like this community that understands that end of things as well. So that was really important.
And so how did you get into this world?
So I'm gonna give you like a nice little condensed version of it.
It can be as long as you want. This is my show. It could be 40 minutes, whatever you want.
No, I will, for brevity's sake. So actually, I started with freelancing when I was still in college. I worked for a local and a regional newspaper as a freelance news reporter. So that also kind of got me into the process of speaking with total strangers and getting comfortable with that and approaching people, because I had to do town council meetings and I had to talk with like mayors and stuff like that. So flash forward to right before I'm graduating college. All of a sudden I started getting pains in my stomach. I was having trouble keeping food down, you know, a little gross, you know, disclaimer, but all of a sudden I'm in bed, I'm going to doctor's appointments, nobody can tell me what is wrong with me, you know, and I was interviewing before that for actual 9-to-5 jobs, a lot of public relations firms, because my background was in writing and communications and public relations, and now I'm like, well, this is great, you know, what am I supposed to do now? I can't get out of bed, I can't even go to these interviews. I had to, you know, give it up, and to push it forward a little bit, it wasn't until about 9 months later that I actually felt better. So, but in that moment, you don't know how long is this gonna take. So I'm in bed and I'm like, okay, I just graduated college. I need to do something. I can't, you know, just wait until I feel better. So since I had that experience in freelancing, I was like, okay, well, I already kind of understand like the self-employment, I know self-employment taxes, like I know all of the, you know, the clerical administrative stuff, but I also know that I can do this. And I also had connections that I made, of course, from all of the people that I interviewed in college. I'm always, again, networking. It doesn't feel like networking in the moment because, you know, you're making these close connections with, say, an advisor or, you know, again, the people I'm talking with, we're just friendly and I'm getting information from them, but they want to stay in touch. So I utilized that beginning network that I had just as like a post-college student. And I was like, okay, well, I know what I can do. Can I do it from my bedroom office that I had, you know, since created, and like work during times that I'm feeling good during the day? So that was really how my freelancing began, from like a bad situation. And I bring this up because I think a lot of people with the COVID situation, they were backed into like a corner, if you will, with you know, just all the events unfolding, you know. And I hope that like little tiny story about how I started freelancing may inspire somebody if they hear that. But it was like taking a bad situation and utilizing the tools that I had. And I was like, okay, well, I think I can do this on my own. And then, you know, you get your first client, and then that person likes your work and they refer you to somebody else. And then it just grew from there. And I was like, oh, I actually could do this. And it was really just supposed to be a stopgap between when I started, you know, or when, you know, until I started to feel better. But then I was like, oh, you know, I could do this. And, you know, I can work with so many different people. And I think that that's also, I'm definitely a multifaceted person as just myself. So I think being able to jump into different, different niches and different projects within the digital marketing realm. I think all of that is just something really cool, and it speaks to me.
Where do you think you found the strength to do that? Because I think anybody that starts their own business, because that's essentially what you did. You know, you say you're a freelancer. Yes, you have your own business. You have your own practice. And everyone I think that I've ever interviewed that is around or starting their own business, they're a little screwy, which is you have to be. You got to be a little messed up to. Entrepreneurs are a little strange, and I think that's why you build a community of weirdos. Like you are in that area, you're around people, and it's the best. Like you're building this army of people that will advocate for you when you're not in the room. Where was the challenge? Or what was the best? Like tell me. Wow, apparently words are hard for me today. Take me through what you do when there's a win, and take me through what you do when there's a challenge.
Perfect. So when there's a win, I do something. I have my win sheet, and this helps with imposter syndrome.
That's exactly what I was going for. Thank you.
Yeah. So I'm one of those people where I speak on imposter syndrome, but I think, as we all know, even if you speak on imposter syndrom,
you have it.
You have imposter syndrome. I mean, it took me a while to even get here today because I was like, oh, okay, am I good enough for the show and everything like that.
You're not rushing it. You're doing great.
So appreciate it. So it's one of those things, but I have my win sheet. So if I do a really good job, if we nail our KPIs, key performance indicators, and everything, I make sure if there's any sort of praise, I'm saving it and I'm looking back towards it.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to internalize it to the best of my ability, because those are those things you have to remember. And we know that the brain always goes to the negative first. Right. So it's like those little things where I'm like, okay, I need to go back. And then that's kind of where, how do I react to a challenge? If something isn't going right in a project, or maybe we believe that we could hit this mark, but we're gonna only make like a quarter of it. It's, especially in digital marketing, you don't really know, because algorithms change on social platforms. You might send a press release out and it's just a big news week for something else. You can't control what happens in the world, and you just kind of are like, that didn't make the mark. So one, I go back to the win sheet to remind myself, like, I have succeeded before. And then I go back to whoever I'm working with, the solopreneur, the small business, the nonprofit, and we say, okay, we didn't make this mark, but let's look at what we did hit. Like, if we wanted to get 4 press hits, but we only got 2, well, those 2 still, were good. They're press hits. Or, we sold 10, I'm just going to use a small number, 10 items, but, we wanted to sell 50. Well, that's still 10 new customers. How can we engage with them to then maybe have them become brand ambassadors as a way? So how can we mitigate the situation? So that's how I rise to a challenge, and I feel like that's how I rise to any challenge, is like I try to find any sort of solution, even if it isn't the solution. We kind of roll with it. The movement is still good, especially in digital marketing. I think that's a key piece to it. It's just moving forward.
So speaking of moving forward, we're going to take a break. We'll come right back and talk to you about your tactical tips and practical takeaways and networking. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Plus this equals this, plus this, and this. Don't drink and drive.
Listen, what will make your event simply beautiful? Is it your attire, your decorations, your entertainment? Well, join me, Alicia Simone, as I chat with some amazing vendors and clientele who will share their stories and images and their experiences. Right here on RVN TV, Tuesday at 11:30 a.m. and Wednesday at 4 p.m. It will be simply beautiful. See you then.
can count. Hello, welcome back. This is my show. My name is Ashley Owens. I'm your personal networking concierge, and I'm here with Sarah DeGeorge. I am thrilled to have you here because we're talking about imposter syndrome, which is always fun on the entrepreneur show. Apparently, this is what that is now.
I know, right?
I'm super pumped about it. But tell me more about, everyone goes through imposter syndrome. Anybody that has a business or does freelance or is a gig worker, it is something that everybody goes through. But it's also something that people forget that everybody goes through. And so when you have those moments where that you can kind of bond in that way with somebody else to say, are you feeling like you don't do what you need to be doing, or like, are you feeling like you're not worth it, and all these things, it's like, yes, and then you have these moments. So take me through this is a networking show, so obviously networking is how we're here today because we met 4 years ago and now we're still here and we're still chatting. Take me through your own way of networking, because the way that, let's say, a real estate agent or a financial planner or a business development manager would network is mostly different than how a freelancer would. So can you tell me the differences in that space?
Obviously, since I don't have like the lived experience of being there, I don't quite know the differences in terms of that, but how I network is I just have like authentic conversations. Like I don't go into networking events to network.
Well, the stereotypical version.
The stereotypical. Yes. So yeah, I mean, it's great when all of a sudden I end up with a contact, but that's not usually. I just go usually to learn, to hear other people's experiences, and go from there. A lot of times, like I have like examples of. One time I was at a women's summit, and
do you remember which one?
Oh God, it was just like the women's empowerment summit.
Oh,
it was in Philadelphia a few years ago, and it was kind of at the end of the day, and I was tired. I was enjoying myself, but I kind of was just hanging. There's another individual hanging with me, and we were just kind of like, yeah, it's really nice in the corner here. and she is still one of my closest friends to this day.
So cool.
It's like, or I was at the Blog Connect summit a few years ago, and I was standing next to this woman, and she had a really cool tattoo.
Obviously.
So that's what I'm going to talk about. I'm not going to talk about business. I'm going to talk about your cool tattoo.
Right.
And again, still one of my like dearest friends. So it's like one of those things, and I feel like those friendship type things where it's like networking was secondary, but like the conversation was first, and like truly meeting somebody. Those are the people that like I always advocate for. If somebody is asking, oh, do you know somebody that does XYZ, like they're the person I send. Because I know them on both a deep level and also on a professional level.
That is so important. And I network the exact same way.
I feel like that's how we connected, because it was just like, I think speaking, well, not speaking of, but I think I was like, your glasses are so cool. You've always had cool glasses. I think that may have been.
Could have been that.
It could have been that. Yeah. So it's like one of those things, and I'm saying it from like a very honest standpoint, because it's one of those things where when somebody has something really cool, I'm like, I need to tell you that I love whatever it is that you're wearing, or that
whatever you're doing, what your life's about. Tell me about everything.
Tell me about everything.
I think a lot of people, and I think that you made a really, really good point here, is that a lot of people will go into networking thinking that they have to network, and it's so interesting because networking is subjective. It's a human behavior. The only difference between networking and building a friendship is there's a little bit of a gray area, but it's in the follow-up. Are you following up for X, Y, and Z? Are you following up because it's a personal relationship? But that's how you build trust. So in order for it to build a robust network, you build something called the know, the like, and the trust factor. And that know, like, and trust factor ends up being a really, really powerful practice. But it takes time, and it takes weeding people in and out of it as much as possible.
Yeah.
Because sometimes so there's a number about it's the Robin Dunbar's theory. So the Robin Dunbar's theory in networking is you can really only have 150 people that you can actually keep close connections with, right? I think 1,500 people you can recognize, 5 people in the main sphere, which is like your family, then 15 people that you really deeply care about, and then 150 people that are acquaintances. That's your network. These are people that you know, that you like, and that you trust. However, sometimes they are idiots, and your one buddy who sells this is a pain in the ass, and then it's like, well, now you're getting swapped out with people. So there's, but you build it up based off of how you decide your network should be, not what other people or what society is telling you your network should be. And that is what people think, or what I feel like people forget. It's like you are building an army. You're building a group of people that will advocate for you when you're not in the room. And who do you want as your soldiers? Who do you want as your lieutenant? Who do you want as your commander? Whatever it may be. But at the end of the day, in order for them to not necessarily follow you, but in order for them to fight with you, you have to fight for them tenfold before you can even think about starting that army.
Of course.
So I can throw analogies into this all day long.
I love analogies. Yeah. Like I'm a visual person, so if I could, I'm like, it's like this. It's like a field. Like I was explaining something, and I was like, it's like a field, and like you're looking at the field, but then you need to tend this one row of corn. I said this a few weeks ago, and it was about marketing. I was just like,
analogies are amazing.
Yes, then they're like, that makes actually like a lot of sense.
The only sense is making it. Do you need to take that away? Okay, cool, thanks. We're just breaking the 15th wall so that way my water bottle that's not sponsored by people is taken off on the table. Clearly, I need to be parched all day. Thank you, Marley. I appreciate it. Okay. So next time I'll just swat it like a cat. Just swat it off the table like a cat. Tell me more about the opportunities that you've had. So I know that you network not necessarily to build business, but sometimes business comes out of it. So how do you get clients right now?
A lot of it is referrals, and that takes a lot of time. And it's one of those things where the first time that you get a client, it has to be kind of like on the end of like, hey, can you help me out? I need business right now. And then afterwards, you do business a few times, and people start saying like, oh, I know Sarah, she does things really well. So that's how I'm getting clients right now. But I'm also letting people know what I'm available for. I'm really big about also, and I think that this is an important thing about time management and like not taking on more. There was that, beginning stage of freelancing where you say yes to everything, and that never works out really well. So now I'm very focused. So now if I have a slot that opens up in my schedule, I let people know.
Right.
And I also tell people on the flip side, because networking is not just what people can do for you, but for what you can do for people. Like, please let me know when you are available, because I will put your name out there. Like, I got an email this morning, somebody was looking for a web designer, and I'm like, I know immediately who you should speak to, and I'm all about warm email connects. So that's just something
huge.
Like really important that I think is good networking and those close connections. It's not so much, about what people can do for you, but also, kind of like the reciprocity of it and building out other businesses and like their processes and everything.
You are giving so much value to so many people because one, you're in the same sandbox with a lot of different people. You're just building a different castle. Yeah. So I'm just gonna keep throwing out analogies as I think of them because you like them.
Yeah, I'm just like I'm so excited when you say it. I'm just like, oh my god, a sandbox, yes, and castles.
So I get people on the show a lot or I get a couple comments from people saying like, hey, why would you bring this person on? Are they a competition? I said, no, they're not, because in some instance, people will connect with other people based off of personality. I might be too much for somebody or not enough for somebody else.
Exactly.
So when that happens, you still want to give value and still want them to say not only kind things, but also have a respect for you and say, hey, she wasn't a good fit, but she gave me 3 other people that were perfect for me.
Yes.
But it's your job as the networker, is your job as the business owner to be able to identify that for that person, because you're still helping them in some way. I've talked myself out of a lot of jobs saying, you actually don't need this. This is what I think you need. And then you're able to work with those partners. So now you're building equity amongst, and I'm talking about like relationship equity amongst the people that you've had that referral agreement with, again, subjective. And then that person that, they chatted with you, they're leaving feeling like, oh, this was a great experience. Let me see if I can get my friend to talk to Ashley or talk to Sarah because of what she did for me.
Exactly.
So it just becomes like, you got to think about it like the wall in A Beautiful Mind.
Yes.
Right? To kind of think about like how everything gets connected, but as long as you're giving value in some way, whether it's knowledge, whether it's an introduction, whether it's a resource, something to help them in some way, you're going to be fine. Like that is the foundation of networking, because once it grows and builds and you talk to whoever you need to talk to, your reputation comes into talk to this person because they can help you with something. It doesn't necessarily have to be with the one thing that you do that makes you money, but now you're getting enough eyes on what's going on, you're building up the engagement and things like that. So
exactly. And I think also with that, like being helpful and, sharing knowledge and everything, it's not necessarily about money too. I think that that's also been an important part. I'm always happy to share that knowledge. And going back to time management, because I manage my time a lot better and who I work with, and making sure that it is a symbiotic relationship between us, that leaves me with more time to be available to help others in, if they have a question. I'm not just like bombarded with work. And that knowledge, again, even if I can't help that person in the moment, if I give them a key piece of information or I give them somebody in my network, I think that, and then they leave, they're like, okay, well, maybe this wasn't the right time for us to work together, but she led me to somebody else. And I think that that's super important, because I want my business to succeed in freelancing, but I really always want like my acquaintances, but like my close friends, my colleagues, like when I build them out, that makes me feel like I'm, continuing to plant a seed, and because people have planted seeds for me before. So I think that in freelancing, it's a lot of just like that camaraderie and like looking at people as connections instead of competition. Like we could do the exact same thing, but you're this type of person and I'm this type of person, and we work differently and with different people, and that's where we kind of differ.
That's how I primarily match up people, is based off of personality. It's always industry, like, hey, who are you looking to meet on a strategic partner level? And then I usually have 2 to 3 people in each industry that I know of that I like, but they're all very different personalities. So then you have the ability and the privilege to be able to match those people up, and that's exactly what you're doing. So that's awesome. So tell me, we're gonna wrap up in just a second. So tell people what, I would love for you to go into why people should, not only should they hire you, but what makes you so different.
Wow. Yeah, I
had to take a minute to think about that, because I didn't want it to sound generic, but.
No, you're fine. I don't want to like throw out all of the cliches, like I'm a hard worker, I have, a breadth of, of experience, but I really, truly enjoy working with the people that I work with. I think sometimes, I don't know if that necessarily makes me different, but I'm the kind of person, like, I'm not going to ask somebody to tell me their most personal details, but I'm happy to hear, if you're kid won a baseball game, for example. I'm saddened when somebody that I work with loses a family member. I sent flowers to one of my clients when their dog passed away. I know that that's not necessarily unique to me, but I come from a standpoint of truly authentically caring. It comes from just who I am as a person, and I think that's how I collaborate really well with people, is finding those individuals where we know that we're both people at the end of the day. We're working on digital marketing, but we're also it's something where, you want to work with somebody that you want to get on the phone with every week on both ends of the spectrum. Right. So I think that that's what makes me unique, is that I truly care, and, I care about their business and I care about them as a person. Why I work with individuals that are sometimes similar to me, small businesses, solopreneurs, and getting them to where they need to be.
So tell people how they can find you and work with you. Look right into that camera.
Okay, so you can find me. My website is SARDEGEORGE, SarDeGeorge.com, because the other Sarah was taken. there's multiple Sarah DeGeorges. Interesting. And my email address is also SARDEGEORGE@gmail.com, and I have an Instagram. Guess what it is? At SARDEGEORGE. So you can find digital marketing tips that I like to share. So those are the 3 places you can find me at.
Thank you so much for being here, Sarah. It was such a pleasure to see you. It's been like 4 years. So it's a brilliant. We live like 5 blocks away from each other.
I know. Seriously.
So annoying. Welcome to COVID in 2020. We're in 2021.
I know. We should have done the tin can like.
With smoke signals. Send a cat with like a little bell.
Walkie-talkie.
Yeah, right. Thank you everybody for watching Connected Success. I'm your host, Ashley Owens. Please make sure to reach out to me if you'd like to be a guest on the show, ashley@ashleysist.com. And please reach out with your tactical tips and practical takeaways and networking. I'd love to hear from you. Stay tuned. We'll see you next week.